or what little you can see of me.
Missing
Okay,
one
chat.
thing.
Let me know if you can see me, chat.
I need a
What you
beverage.
missing? Where the fuck did he go? Where
Oh, don't
I'm
worry,
from.
baby. Don't worry, baby.
Oh, oh shit, he's not on the screen, but I can hear him still. That's spooky. That scares me. It's a pity we don't have Joe Rogan moderating this fight.
Yeah,
If we
so
had Joe Rogan.
Professor Jelkington is going to be the moderator, right?
I
That's the
didn't
plan.
see that. Oh, you got your vessel. You got your drinky vessel. You got your Sam Hyde zippy water, bro.
Yes, sir. And and I have a snack for halfway through or whatever.
Yeah, well, you're an American. You need a snack every six seconds, or otherwise your diabetes will kill you. Okay.
Correct.
So who's going first? Do we decide on a coin toss? Do we decide on
Don't
a? I
don't
don't have a
we
coin on me.
don't we all right. Hang on a second. Where is Jelk?
I swear to God, I'm not doing post processing in the video. By the way, it literally just looks like that because everything I own is falling apart. Everything breaks down in the end, which is the topic of tonight's debate. I say tonight like it's like still afternoon there for you.
Yeah. I have just finished my my mandatory wagey cagey stuff, so
Okay. Is Jelk in the chat yet? I've got a monitor across the room, and I've got to make out what's going on. So you just got to let me know.
no, he's
Is
not in.
Jelky on yet?
No, he's not.
Okay, well fuck him.
Now
The others are done to
poss
their jobs.
it is possible that I'm misremembering, because I do that constantly.
It's
Uh,
fine, bro.
we'll give him
Okay.
like 2 minutes and give people like 2 minutes to join.
Yeah. Chad, can we get just a string of poggers? Just poggers, like I want to see like a line of poggers. Can we get that, chat?
I thought you didn't like that word.
No, I don't. I'm just finding people to block later. I'm just gonna like after this thing, I'm gonna find the people that said they didn't vote for me, and I'm gonna find the people that said poggers and just get rid of all of them in one foul swoop. They will be expunged from my visual radius. We are drinking Earl Grey, 5 roses Earl Grey with one teaspoon of sugar. I had a cup of coffee as well just to get the blood flowing.
5 after sounds good night.
I also got lasers shining directly into my eyes, so if I'm blind after this or I get cataracts, I am literally going to sue you. You specifically.
Good luck with that.
Oh, good luck with that. Like, I don't have any money to sue you, huh? Like, my South African money is like worth 1/20th of your dollar, huh? Is that what you're implying? That I can't sue you? Because we've got lawyers. Not very good ones, but we got lawyers.
This is by far the most people I've ever seen in this chat. Holy smokes.
How many we got? Oh wait, I forgot I got my phone on my desk here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Jesus Christ.
13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21.
What's happening, forum? Boogie 2988 coming at you live once again through the power of the internet, and I have a gun in my hands and I'm gonna blow your fucking brains out. I'm gonna shoot you, Castle Doctrine, bitch. I'm gonna shoot you. Oh, he's got the shotgun. I was considering
Yeah.
getting the gun out the safe as a
Yeah.
prop.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
won't see a jet black Glock in the dark, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe you don't see your death coming to you.
I can't
Give it
turn.
give it a little chip chip.
Even if I wanted to, I wouldn't be able to turn the lights off enough for this because it's fucking light outside. So I could close the curtains. It won't make a lick of difference.
Yeah, it sucks being in America, bro.
Yeah. It's always dark there, and it's always light here. That's how time zones work.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, light shining off my legs, indeed.
Do you have Jewish lawyers, Manny? Here's some questions from chat. Do we have Jewish lawyers? We do. And they are quite wealthy. Manny, I am literally lolling right now. That is a good one, my friend. Yin and yang. Well, considering I'm influenced by Eastern philosophy, thank you, Ozzy. Namaste. How is somebody who lives in a desert so pale and radiant? Well, we both live in very warm climates, and we're both very pale. I'll let you take that one, Ovid.
All right, who should moderate it as a backup? Let's have
Joe Rogan.
let's have Knight do it.
Joe MMA Rogan can moderate the debate.
Oh, or Mensch. Mensch has a nice, pleasing accent.
Yes.
Mensch, what do you think?
Time pull, the camera glitching is not my fault. Like, it's literally just doing that. I looked at it and I just said Nick Land 3 times and it just started glitching. I said Nick Land, Nick Land, Nick Land. And then it just started glitching. It's weird how that happens.
If you say Nick Land 3 times into the mirror, you'll turn
You
white.
summon a cackle. This is a creepypasta. Wait until you see what happens later, bitch.
Alright, Mensch. You've been drafted. Do you have a coin, Manny? Or Mensch?
A coin.
I've transcended physical mutiny, or physical, what am I saying? Physical currency, and I no longer have any.
I have a bag full of dice and they're downstairs, so.
Oh, I've got dice somewhere. Online coin flip. He's being suppressed.
Mention speaking to discuss salary.
Try again, Mensch.
Hello?
Here he goes.
Everyone
There we
calm
go.
down, look at the
Alright,
mushrooms. I
Mensch.
posted mushrooms as well.
Mensch, flip a
I
coin.
mushroom post all the time. Yeah, flip a coin, boy.
Heads Manny, tails me.
Let's go, boys. Right. Where's my wallet?
Where's your McWallet?
If you don't flip a coin
Where's your euro?
in the next 30
Flip a
seconds,
50p.
Manny's going first.
Right.
We should have done this yesterday so we could have done it at the same exact time as the
Indeed.
presidential debate.
Yeah, but only one of those would be interesting.
Tails.
Tails?
Tails.
Tails.
All right.
That's Ovid first.
All right. So, the topic of the debate is wirehead accelerationism versus return to nature. You know, glory of the natural world. eco-fascism, and uh, for some context for people, usually Manny is the guy saying the eco-fascist shit. I'm usually the one.
Return to tradition.
Yeah, Manny is more of the return to tradition kind of guy, and I'm more of the capitalism good, everybody happier now kind of thing. But we have switched those roles for the sake of having things be really interesting. And so I have to present some arguments in favor of returning to tradition. And I want to preface this by saying that first of all, uh, I did read a little bit of stuff, but to really get in the spirit of things, I also tried to forget how to read during the process of this. I'm not sure. And second, um, I'm going to try to go through this whole thing without ever saying something that I don't actually at least a little bit believe in, right? I'm trying to make an actually good case for return to tradition from my perspective. And thirdly, I did actually change my mind about a few things during the process of reading up on this stuff, and just over the last few months in general, there has actually been uh, a slight shift in my thinking, especially with COVID and being fucking stuck at home and on the internet all the goddamn time. It sucks, and I hate it. So, um, with all that said, I had considered just making chimp noises into the microphone for the entire hour, but I suck at making chimp noises. So, uh, um, so here's the thing: if we're so happy, then why are we miserable? Um, is happiness even like? Is that an objectively measurable or desirable goal, right? And in the process of achieving human happiness, we have also destroyed our fucking planet. Uh, it's become more and more apparent to me from watching videos of people flying over landscapes, and we have scarred the fucking landscape with roads and with buildings and with asphalt. Uh, it's, you know, animals are developing differently on two sides of freeways in the U.S. because of how dangerous it is to cross that freeway. It acts like a fucking mountain range or something, right? Um, it destroys migratory patterns for all sorts of animals. It destroys the ecosystem. Our roads, in particular, are destroying the ecosystem, and you know, maybe maybe having all of this infrastructure to be able to drive, um, especially semi trucks full of stuff from one end of the country to another to make food a little bit less expensive, to allow for greater population growth, to end up encountering that same problem again 50 years down the road is not actually worth it. Maybe we should be growing enough food for the people who live in an area and not expanding the population beyond that point. Um, I
Good
don't know how
point.
long we're supposed to be talking for here, by the way, Manny. So I'm just gonna,
I'll just
I'll
mod
just,
you.
I'll
I'll,
just ramble for a bit, and then I'll turn it over to you.
yeah,
All right?
yeah, no, I'll just Frank Castle you out of
Now,
the way.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
my presuppositions involve nothing about happiness because none of us are going to be happy with, no matter what happens. So my side of the debate is poorly defined. Everybody knows, like Ted Kaczynski, everybody knows chimp memes. Everybody knows that shit. The wirehead mindset, or zero acceleration, or zish acceleration, or zombie acceleration, that side of it, the side of the debate that I'm taking up, is basically codified in a single sentence, in the sense that accelerationism is not an ideology, it's a demon. It's the assumptions or axioms that I'm going to be going forward is not so much that technology good. I'm not essentially making that argument because I think none of us like in this community could really ever advocate that position. What I'm advocating, I'll tell you what I'm not advocating for. I'm not advocating for leftist accelerationist or leftist progressive conception of technology versus nature, which is that we'll have luxury gay space automated communism or whatever the fuck they call it. Um, that's not what I'm advocating for. I'm not advocating for like technological based communism or whatnot. So that's not the side of that I'm taking. I'm not advocating for right accelerationism, which is techno fascism or valence state fascism or the like, where we industrialize for industrialization's sake. um, Rather, what I'm advocating for is Z accelerationism, which is basically that we're not even able to accelerate. We're not even able to regress or accelerate or do anything really because the systems that we've created have outpaced our capacity to involve ourselves in them. You've read Uncle Ted,
Yes.
and Uncle Ted states explicitly that in his axiomatic presuppositions about society, he states that the systems are bigger than us, and even when we make changes to that system, the changes, the side effects and eddies and swirls and whatnot that happen when you affect a change outweigh the change you try to affect. So in effect, you can't actually change the system the way you want it to. It can't be directed anymore, even with good intention or capital or popular support. Uncle Ted beautifully self defeats in his own treatise, and that's why I respect him more so than most ideologues. Because most ideologues just build a good case for themselves and a straw man for everyone else, and that's that. Uncle Ted self defeats. So that's what I'm not advocating for, just to clearly delineate what I am advocating for. What I am advocating for is watching the collapse in a post sincere way and adjusting humanity around the singularity rather than regressing to cause as little discomfort to humanity as possible, as it is unavoidable. So
Post
you're
sincere?
post sincere, yeah. Well, I don't know if I'm using that right. I don't even know what irony means anymore. But
Fair.
basically, driving to the truth of the matter, which is that we've created systems that we can't control. We're automating at a pace that no one can control or regulate, and it's best to now learn how to ride the tiger rather than kill it and go back, because that would not even work. And if it did work, it would kill all of us. That's my position.
I think that we are in the unfortunate position. I understand. First of all, it's good to know that we're both coming at this from a point of relative sincerity, because it was a contest as to whether you were just going to hoot into the microphone for an hour or two. But second, all right, so I see where you're coming from, and I think that I think that Uncle Ted is right in that if you just lay down and accept your fate, it will be too late for us. I don't think that there's a post singularity, everybody gets to live happily ever after solution, because by the time we allow it to get to that point, the biodiversity of the planet will be maybe like a tenth of what it is now. I mean, I'm pulling that number out of my ass. Don't ask me for citations. I don't have any. Um,
I'm not ready.
yeah, I'm not. I'm not Reddit either. Also, statistics are for libtards. So so but we are destroying the habitat, and by the time we have let things quote unquote finish, I don't know what will be left. Probably very little, and so my argument is that okay, it is certainly true that the amount of violence and suffering and problems that would be caused by attempting a return to nature kind of thing, on a macro scale. On a macro scale here, all right. I'll talk about the micro scale about what you specifically, I think, ought to consider in terms of your lifestyle and your behaviors. But on a macro scale, what would be sort of ideal, unfortunately, is that there's a there's a choice between a lot of problems occurring and a lot more problems occurring. If you try to destroy the system as it stands, people will starve and die. There will be tremendous riots. Nations will probably, nations will fall. Problems will happen. It's not like it's a happy path. But on the other hand, if you don't do anything about it, I think that climate change will result in, uh, you know, billions of refugees swarming northern climates, and you can't pack a lot of people into a small space without causing tremendous social problems, probably large numbers of wars, and eventually, that's like the fucking player unknown battlegrounds shit, where the circle keeps on shrinking until there's only you know a few people left, and I don't think that that's a good or tenable solution. And attempting to engineer our way out of each successive problem so far has really only pushed the ball further down the road. I mean, even one of the inventions that I think on a very simple moral level is one of the best inventions, which is antibiotics. Uh, Modern Western medicine has reduced the child mortality rate by a tremendous amount. That sounds great. It's also led to tremendous overpopulation. We've engineered more efficient ways to grow food in order to combat the problems that come with that. That's resulted in an abuse of land and an expansion of industrialized land that has resulted in tremendous deforestation and ecosystem collapse. And so every solution that we make creates another problem down the road. Some technology is great. Uh, in terms of, as like sort of selfishly, I enjoy using it. Um, but we've taken control of the ecosystem and we don't know how to drive it. Like it's not. Uh, I don't think that it's feasible in the long run. Now,
Well, tell you
what can we
my
actually do
actual
about it? I'm not sure, but I think that we
yeah.
have to try.
So funny enough, you're riffing on that because my next point is basically regarding collapse. Accelerationism is primarily a collapse-oriented ideology or demon. And in terms of how we can mitigate this and navigate through the next few decades, we need to understand how societies break down and then ask ourselves if that process is worth doing, as the Kaczynskiites are proposing, or if the collapse that's on the horizon is one that can even be slowed down and will result in a worse state. Because the core argument of primitivism, for lack of a better word, is that we need to break down the system to get to a better state. When complex societies break down, um, because there's too much complexity and the system breaks down to get to a state of lesser complexity, that's usually the case when societies break down and collapse. Collapse is also a very long-term thing. People think collapse happens in a year. It happens over decades. Most of the theory and zeitgeist concerning collapse involves the traditional notion of an unsustainably high level of complexity dropping down to a lower level of complexity. Um, but that's not necessarily the case. And when we look at ecology, we can see that an untenable situation can occur almost indefinitely. Ecology itself is an incredibly complex system that self-perpetuates no matter what. And even when it has a collapse, a die-off, an extinction, a natural disaster, it still manages to get through and be better on the other side. The Z-AC singularity crash will not, it will be a horrific event. I don't think anybody who's alive right now thinks that things are going to get better. But what's on the other side of it, if we push through, will not necessarily involve more suffering because most of our assumptions about technology involve our current levels of technology. And the dehumanization aspect, the lack of dignity, the wage cucking, the welfare states. All those things exist now, but we can't really know what happens on the other side of automation, UBI, die-off, population depopulation, those kind of things. The topology will change, so our presupposition can't carry through. The key arguments the key argument against traditionalism is really solidified as this, that regression does not bypass the fight because of dysgenics and natural selection. Natural selection's occurring and continuously occurring. Dysgenics is occurring and never used to happen, but now it kind of is. And those things will both happen even in the most primitivist of states.
Can you define dysgenics real quick?
Basically, like, so when I use it, I mean malicious natural selection, social engineering, letting people die off that are undesirable, aka your Stalinist purges or your Ukrainian famines, which are going to keep happening and are happening right now. I mean, you let Africa die because they're poor and stupid, and if they die, we can come in and take the resources. That's happening on large scales. That's happening on that's purposely happening. I'm not going to invoke conspiracy theories, but people have the notion that we're being socially engineered and told in certain aspects. It's kind of there's no like there's no solid definition for this. I'm just saying intelligent selection or non-natural selection is occurring, and this is going to happen even if we regress because those people who do that kind of thing have those tools. And even if we start pipe bombing every single factory, they'll still have those tools. And if even if we start, destroying the infrastructure, they can rebuild that infrastructure and they'll still have those tools and they'll kill the Luddites. So you'll never really get to a point where you can regress successfully on any level. So to do so is to resist fate and be killed by the industrial society. You will be wiped out by it. It is stronger than you. They have every single. I know there's a civil war argument of, well, governments have tanks, therefore we can't overthrow them. No, they don't have tanks, but they do have private security and whatnot, and they do have dysgenics campaigns, and they do have abstinence campaigns. Billionaires put a lot of money into things like contraceptive and Planned Parenthood campaigns which kill people en masse. Whether no matter what you look at it, even if you look at it from a leftist, ultra leftist, tolerant perspective, abortion kills the population, and when it's targeted towards certain communities, like it's targeted towards the black community, it causes a dysgenic effect of culling one side of the population but not the other. Those effects are still going to happen, and that's going to further the collapse, further the singularity, more so than any actual technological inventions.
All right. Aussie's saying your time's up. So, all right. So the crux of the disagreement here, as I understand it, is about whether or not we can even resist it, other than by accelerating it. My argument, fundamentally, my argument is that even if it's suicide to go against the accelerationism, to go against the technological progress and the concentration of power that's kind of going along with that, to sort of take Uncle Ted's phenomenology. If you try to resist it, you probably will die, or at least you probably will be unsuccessful. And even if they don't kill you, you'll be crushed, right? Eventually. However, to not do that is to get in the cattle car. Is my argument. If you don't resist, then you are walking into your inevitable doom. And I don't think that accelerationism is going to work because the system will find new ways to keep itself afloat until it is untenable for it to do so. And the point at which it is untenable for it to do so is going to be the point at which those with the most resources and the most power are no longer able to make their own ends meet. And when that happens, everybody else is going to be completely fucked, right? Like you and me uh, are going to be completely screwed long before those people are. Unless you can change my mind on
Sure.
that, which is possible. Uh, in
Well,
terms of
there's a
what I
little
actually,
point, just interject, there's a little point there. There's a board that suggests that water will become scarce for 2/3 of the human population by 2025. So, yes, we're looking at it in the short term.
so how do you even, like, okay, all right, being a prepper is something that I even pretty much advocate for. And I've even said we should have a hashtag prepping channel. Uh, you can't store 30 years worth of water for yourself very feasibly, right? I mean, you can store seeds. Water is a really big problem. Protecting your land is a really, really big problem in the long term because also nice. Hey, you're finally on camera. You're not going to be able to keep the feds off your land, right? It's not the immigrants. It's going to be the feds. It's going to be the jackboots, right? The the working class component of the fucking Stasi, the police, they are basically as time progresses and they get cooler and cooler toys and become better and better engineers of oppression, they're going to become more and more like the Jews who guarded the camps during the Holocaust, right? They're going to be the ones holding the guns to our head on the behalf of their own, uh, basically, owners.
Let
Sorry,
it be known that
I
Poe's
shouldn't have
law has
invoked the
been
Holocaust.
Poe's law has been invoked. The
Yeah,
debate
Poe's
has turned
lost that
into its own
has
arsehole.
it has. But we are talking about genocidal extinction, end of the world type shit. It's not about any particular group. It's humanity overall. I mean, if first it's going to hit places like China, right? I mean, China already has a huge overpopulation problem, and they have resorted to uh, some pretty extreme oppressive stuff in order to limit that, which in some ways is better than the alternative. I mean, they could have gone a different
India.
road. Yeah, India is going to be in even worse trouble in about 10, 15 years. Um, yeah, what do you think on a personal level we can do to affect this stuff?
Well, prepper knots aren't going to fix the fucking issues. Like I was saying with dysgenics and eugenics, the state, nature, and whatnot is selecting for traits that the system finds appealing. Um, Aesthetics and strength and the draw cards of traditionalism, your fascist aesthetic, is actually promoted by the system. So even the draw cards of regression are actually being promoted by the system because those aesthetics or ideals make the system look good. If people are, at least on the surface, fit and happy, your typical Instagram scroll on the default front page will show you that, then you see the aesthetic and whatnot of the system that it promotes trumps the traditionalist angle. So you won't have a mainstream traditionalist push because their own aesthetic will get flipped on them. Again, Kaczynski wrote about how the system flips movements on their head. In terms of how to actually redress the problems of overpopulation, um, the only thing we can really hope for as ground level troops is that the technology just keeps increasing in power and scope, and hydroponics feeds us all, and we weather engineer to get over the water problems. And that's all we can hope for. We can hope that Bill Gates invents our COVID vaccine so we can go back to having hookups and bars, because those problems are going to exist anyway because we've already dealt the hand. We've already the not even the baby boomer generation dealt this hand. This hand was dealt to us by literally 1700s industrialists.
Sure, I agree with that.
Okay, so when are we taking this break for the push-ups, my friend?
That's a good point.
We're halfway through.
Let's go ahead and do it, and then do you want to do some Q&A stuff? I asked in the channel. People were saying we're just riffing on points. We need like some specific stuff. So we could take some audience questions, and time pool
I've got
is.
more. I've got more on my side, just FYI. So
Okay, well,
we can go for round two with chat questions as they come
you
along.
can give me you can go into that a little if you want to. As far as
Sure.
I'm concerned,
So
we can do push-ups whenever you're done.
sure. So I'll give you one little spiel more on my side of the fence. The complexity of modernity breaks down the simple man, as Kaczynski noted, and the modern man is robbed of craft, dignity, and privacy. This is also part of natural selection because the system is selectively wanting more and more obedient people, people who go along with the system, like you said, your Stasi. But it also wants people who can cope in an information dense society. The people who regress not only are an obstruction to the system, but they don't have the traits the system wants. And when I refer to the system, I refer to a demon. The demon is what leftists call capitalist, or left accelerations for that matter, is capitalism. It's what right wingers call progressivism, but it's really the engine of trade, the engine of industrialization, and the engine of progress. But it's a demon. It's something that we've summoned and we can't control. We made a Faustian bargain with it, and it's in every aspect of our lives. You can't turn your phone off because of your job. You can't do that. You can't. I mean, maybe you're not a on standby kind of guy. I was. But to be consistently harassed by the system is a natural selection check to see if you're going to act out. And it does thousands of these checks to find the people who act out, even just symbolically, and then crushes them. There's a short story by Asimov where there's a guy whose prison sentence for whatever crime he commits is to be unable to interact with technology. He can't buy things, he can't pay his rent. Everybody has to help him do things. He can't even play chess because the chess board at the local cafe is electronic, it's a hologram. So he can't even interact with that, and he has nothing. He has nothing in the society that he lives in. And eventually it is sort of really like that. If you're computer illiterate, it is pretty bad to get through life. Old people are suffering for that matter. They're struggling with the Zoom meetings. Um, and nothing's going to replace this filter because this is now a new filter. We don't get large scale war. We get this Azerbaijani conflict, and that's the most interesting thing happening right now. We don't have total war. We don't have any sort of major political ideology that's claiming a lot of lives. We only have people who are dying because they can't adapt to capitalism or industrialism. And when you mark yourself out as a luddite, as somebody who's resistant to change, the system notices. It notices. It's almost sentient at this point because it has agents who are sentient, and it selects you and it pushes you out. You don't. You aren't even allowed to reproduce. If you don't own a TV, women find that weird. That's sort of the main gist of my arguments is that you can't evade this because it's like evading the natural laws that traditionalists appeal to. Return to tradition, return to natural order, return to just a man and a woman, no like in betweens and transgenders, just the way things used to be when it was natural and there was nature. But the natural state of things is not going to
Hey,
regress.
mate,
It's not
sorry,
going to
just wanted to
allow
let you know
regression.
you've got like a minute 30 left there. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. I've just paused it to give you a little bit more time. Sorry.
Would you say there, Ozzy? I can't hear you from across the room.
You've got a minute 30 left.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Now
sorry.
I think it's time for some stretches. I think I want to see Ovid's tummy being stretched there. I want to see some. He can put on the Dust soundtrack, but we're gonna laugh at him for being a video game nerd.
Tummy
Let's
stretch.
see it, bro. Let's see it. Is that a Sun O shirt? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, okay. This is happening. Bane shirt is off. VS gear is off. We're doing this. We are doing this.
Push-ups! Alright. Angle that down a little. Tell me when you're ready.
Are we going like, oh shit, we're going at the same time. Hold on. Camera.
We can go one after the other. That's all good.
That's all good. Okay. 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 I want to see you go first. I want to see your form.
Alright.
I don't want to go together because then I can't see your form.
Alright.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Let's do it. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, forms cock row, 38, 39, 50, 51, 52, 53. Jesus Christ, dude, what are you doing? It's over, chat. It's
Matt,
over.
you added an extra 10 from 30 to 50, so just so you know, it was about 45.
Okay, chat, what do we have here? 48. Okay, well, that's like double my PR, so this is gonna be fucking embarrassing, but I'm gonna give myself my best shot, okay? You ready for
Well,
this?
Ovid, he was counting you out loud, so feel free to count him out loud. It beats him.
There's not much on the camera. So. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23.
Would you believe me that
Hey.
that was basically my PR?
I couldn't see
Everybody,
it from there either. So
I'm still proud of you, King.
Thank
You
you,
did it on,
thank you.
you did it on camera.
Um, when I went into this, I did 10, right? And I was like, okay, cool, I can do 10 push-ups. Then I looked up my form, like what was appropriate form. I couldn't do 10, I could do 3. So I went from 3 to 20. Mine says 22. My PR is 3 lower. Stalwart, like next week, it's going to be 3 higher.
we couldn't see your legs. You might have had bent knees.
I'm sorry, chat, but my webcam is a piece of shit. I wasn't doing goal push-ups though. If I was, I would have done more than like 20.
You weren't doing what push-ups? A
Goal
wall?
push-ups.
Goal?
Girl.
Oh,
Push
go,
up.
girl.
Female.
Female.
Female push-ups.
Sure. I'll put my shirt back on so that the homoeroticism can cool off a bit. Is Stinky in here? I don't see him. Man, Stinky's really missing out.
Stinky is not here.
Jesus, my arms. Okay, let's get some close sincerity in here. Cool. How we looking, chat? I keep saying chat so I can talk to you guys.
Oh, that was
Jesus
a good one.
Christ. Bro, I did 20 in a week. So, bam, my form was so bad earlier on. at the start of this. I've never done so many push-ups in my life, so thank you for that. Thank you for the
Thank you too.
competition.
Yeah. No, I used to when we first scheduled this thing, I went and did as many as I could, and I got to 30, and I was like, oh my god, all right, I need to work on this. So we both improved, and that's what's really important. And you know, while we're waiting on what's whatever the next phase of this thing is going to be, uh,
Closing
you
points,
know,
questions from chat.
you're a
Okay,
king.
chat.
You're a king. All right. Okay. So
You
question
too,
for
mate.
me. A question for me from Kit Kat, the sister brother. Since I did research for this debate, all right, I'll go first. In answer to Kit Kat, the sister brother, um, I used to be much more of the view that, and it wasn't just in the research for this debate, but just conversations with many that I've had in the past and with other people in the server. Uh, but I used to have much more of the view that technological progress has made people live longer and has given them new and exciting toys and diversions and cool things that we can do, and that is better than it used to be. That we have reduced world hunger somewhat through the means of GMOs and so on, and that trade has connected the world and made us better. What I have sort of changed my mind on there is that trade has homogenized society across all continents, has eroded diversity, has eroded sense of place and time throughout the world, and that I'm going to turn this up a little bit 'cause it's kind of on my undies here. And that to some extent it's sort of like a false god where we have made people live longer. That's true, and that's not bad. But the consequences of that are like he said, a Faustian bargain. I'm in agreement with Manny that we've made a Faustian bargain with the analogy of a demon is pretty good. Uh, no real argument on that part. I think that's a good way of thinking about it. Is that we have invoked something, and maybe we were destined to. I don't know if there was any avoiding that. But yeah, I used to be much more of a full-on like pro-capitalism, pro-demon kind of guy, and then I've kind of changed my mind on that one. I think that it's more like a regrettable thing. So I don't necessarily.
He's got a
I don't.
question there for both parties there.
Yeah,
Within our framework, how
yeah,
society can preserve the valuable history of
yeah.
human
You go
achievement,
first.
spiritual, scientific, or should this history of everything we've achieved thus far is built into our DNA? Go look into genetic memory. Go look into just like how our culture and stuff is so inundated. Even our three-act play stories and our hero's myth journey and hero's myth incorporates the core of human everything, whether it be the scientific disciplines or whatnot. Our culture and whatnot will survive because we'll always want to distract ourselves, and we'll always distract ourselves with culture. In terms of artistic, look, I mean, the prevalence of technology has, in my opinion, made art worse, not better, because you've got people like me doing pixel art and calling themselves artists. We don't spend 20 years learning the trade.
I take it that you're turning it over to me. Um, so first of all, history should absolutely be preserved. One of the most irritating things about the far left, I would say, is that there is this attitude towards, say, for instance, the founding fathers of the U.S. is sort of a more relatable example to me, where they are lambasted for being slave owners and being white, so on, and that's all true. Uh, but they pushed the ball along for the cause that they themselves celebrate, right? Which is in recognizing human liberty as being really important. I mean, before the founding fathers, you had the divine right of kings, right? Before Enlightenment era stuff, you had the divine right of kings as your sort of legal foundation for government. Obviously, moving to a republic is a step forwards, right? I mean, whether or not it's actually a step forwards, kind of a question there, sure. But oh yeah, I love your haircut too. But but uh, but for sure, historical context is really important. It's important to understanding your own side. It's important to recognize what got you to this point, whether you consider that to be good or bad. And history and culture is really important at how to how to actually preserve that. Um, I would say that leaving it the fuck alone is pretty good. Um, the stuff in the pyramids had been preserved for thousands of years, and it wasn't really until the fucking French went in and started tearing it up, and then the British, that you started to see all these artifacts starting to get really destroyed. I mean, of course, looters were stealing the plating off of the pyramids long before then, but leaving
Yeah,
things
because ISIS was
alone
blowing up
is
all
good.
those. ISIS was blowing up all those relics and stuff as well because they were haram.
Yeah,
I got a
that kind
point
of thing.
here that I want to
Leaving
make. That's
it
not a
alone
chat
is really good.
question. I only got like 60% of the way through my notes here, and I got a few points here. Most of it's hopping on the point that the primitivist cannot really do anything. But the point that I actually wanted to come through to people to consider, right? And I'm just going to spoil something here. I did like very little reading for this because the literature on accelerationism, specifically Z accelerationism and progress, is mostly academic wank and it's not connected to reality. What connects to reality is the position I think that people who are aware of accelerationism should take into their considerations. The collapse cannot be accelerated faster. It actually cannot be because the acceleration is happening by the demon, by the Balrogs rampaging throughout the world. But it's in the common man's interest to preserve technological innovations if it's fit for his survival. That's sort of the key that I want to bring here is that we shouldn't destroy technology if it helps the common man survive and thrive because if Uncle Ted knows this because he used explosives, which is chemistry, and you know this because you're never going to relinquish your guns. Um, that physical technology helps, but using the demon's own tools against it is the core that I want to bring across here. Use the internet. They're brainwashing your kids with the internet. You can brainwash kids with the internet. They're using the financial systems to entrap you if the financial systems are all abstract and fiat and don't make sense, then don't engage with them. Find wealth that's real. If the you can decline the advances for now. Like Uncle Ted makes the point of some technology is optional until it's not. You could not have a car or a motorbike or whatever, but then you would be stuck here taking public transport and wanting to kill yourself. Um, all technology is optional until it's not. Take the option. Take it and enrich yourself. Enrich yourself as much as you can with the things that matter, with your prepper gear, and I'm not against that, but with ways that can inoculate you against the threats. Face the abyss. Don't run away from it. Look into what right wingers call degeneracy, what left wingers call late stage capitalism. Look into it, understand it, so that you can survive better. That's the sort of like you can be just be an observer, but be a smart observer who tries to entertain ideas without accepting them.
I have a response.
God, I love Manny so much. I love you too, one.
I have a I have a response for that. If I can get 5 minutes.
Sure.
So
I was gonna say, did you guys want to like? It sounds like Manny wants to close up. So if you wanted to, is that it, Manny? To close up, or
Manny,
is Manny finished?
Manny, can you hear
I'm
Rossi?
finished my racist diatribe. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I
No,
hand
no. I
over
mean,
to
just
you,
like
Ovid.
it fully. Because it sounded like you were just finishing up your final points there.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I
Okay.
got a few other points,
Yeah.
but they
Okay.
all
So.
hop on the same thing.
Alright. Well, I was just gonna say, like, if that's it, then Ovid, you may as well make your final points.
Yeah.
And
So sure.
try and call it there. I'll
Yep.
give you the five
And
right
then
now.
I have time after this to do questions if there's more. But in
Oh
terms
yeah,
of
there's
my
plenty of time for
closing,
that. That's just,
yeah, in terms of my closing remarks, it's that in terms of what you should do on a personal level, because that's pretty much what you got to there. I think that what people can do to enact change, because I do think that we can enact change, it's about a cultural. I don't want to say cultural revolution because that's a red thing. But essentially that we can and currently are uh, making you can make a difference, and we are currently making a difference just by having this conversation, just by being a part of this internet community. You can spread the idea that we are on the way towards something undesirable, and have conversations about how best to resolve it. And ultimately, what it's going to take is distributed action. I think that the system is really good at destroying and tearing down organized, centralized opposition to itself. Um, Attempts to organize and have large scale revolutions or riots or strikes or whatever are going to become more and more and more difficult. And any attempt, furthermore, to do such a thing will get co opted by the technology and by the systems that it creates to support itself. So, um, strikes are a good example of that, right? Like labor unions originally were formed as a means for workers to express themselves and to have representation within a system that was oppressive to them. And the very nature of that centralization of um, that combined the combined strength of those people, it caused a concentration of power that has in turn created an additional layer of oppression. It got co-opted by it. It's sort of that, like the left wing memes that any time you try to do something to capitalism, capitalism will package it back up and sell it back to you. Right? That's true.
Yes.
Capitalism will sell your rebellion back to you. And
Yes.
so
Pussy
you
hats.
you cannot organize against it. It has to be sort of an individualistic jihad. There's no way around that. And I think that if you can spread that idea that you're in this fight alone. You're not in this fight alone in terms of that there are lots of other people around you who will support you, but ultimately what you do and the consequences that you face have to be undertaken completely alone because you cannot organize with another person without that organization itself turning into the demon. I mean, you can maybe have one friend to be your spotter while you snipe.
Yeah, or
You better
some guy to
fucking
deliver
trust.
packages.
Yeah, you better fucking trust that person. Now, you can use elements of the system against itself, right? Like mail bombs. Although, I'm not necessarily saying here that violence is the only solution. What I am saying more is that.
Chat, can we clip that? Can we clip that, chat?
Yeah,
Can we clip that, chat?
hang on. So, so obviously, right? Like, terrorism is unpopular, and I would never personally endorse terrorism, specifically against human lives. But uh, the but to some extent, it is cultural terrorism to even go against something like that in the first place, right? And so it's more of a cultural guerrilla, let's say guerrilla instead of terrorism, right? It's sort of like cultural guerrilla warfare of using the internet but not in the approved ways, of constantly finding the way around the system from within the system. I mean, a very small example of this that I do on my daily life is anytime I encounter a CAPTCHA where I have to identify bicycles, I will get the answer as wrong as I will get the answer as wrong as I can while still being able to log into my account. All right, and it will amaze
Taking
you.
all pictures of this random shit.
It will amaze you how wrong you can be at those and still get through. All right, it's even if my little tiny piece of labor only makes it fractionally harder for them to build self-driving cars,
Just
it
gonna
will
wait
have been worth it.
30 seconds of
It
it.
will have been worth it. So what I'm
I
saying
want to make a
is
point that I
use it.
got
Shut
here.
up, shut up, shut up. Hang on. Let me finish. Let me finish. Let me
Oh,
finish.
Frank
Because
Hassel, you bitch.
yeah, fuck you. Uh, just
Sorry, I've been
with
pausing.
within your day-to-day life, find ways that you can frustrate the eventual means of your own slavery. Use a VPN. Use technology in ways that aren't going to actively support like long-term, collapse. And try to have technology as your weapon, both literal like guns. Everybody should have a gun if you can use a gun, and also in terms of uh, computer technology stuff like as weapons. Make sure that you are using encryption. Make sure that you're using
Yeah, I'm sure
a
the system
VPN.
cares about
Those
you
are
using encryption, fam.
those are
I encrypt all
those
my hard drives. Nobody checks that shit. But
those are
I want to make
all
a
That
point here.
time
I want
of
to
those
make a
are
point here. I'm gonna Frank
those are
Hassel you. I'm gonna make a
those
point here. The
those
one
those
are many
thing
are
that
areas
weapons.
that
Those are
that
traditionalists
time
are on
weapons.
of.
about is physique, right? Physique is their big draw card. They got these big pictures of like Arnie doing this shit, right? And Bronze Age pervert with the sword, and he's got the Caribbean rhythms, fucking picture of him being all muscly, looking out at the beach and shit. Yeah, I want to make a point about that. It has never ever been easier to get fit because we now have the science and the understanding to get fit. It is the duty of every single person in chat. Chat, I want you to clip this. You have to get fit. You have to lift something heavy. You have to push yourself off the ground or farmers walk some fucking ammo cans, something. But one thing that you can't let them take from you is your physique. And it's never been easier because, unfortunately, what traditionalists don't realize is that when you're on an anemic diet of like rabbit with buckshot like still stuck in it, and fucking just a bucket full of wheat a day, like you're not going to have a great physique. You're going to be strong and you're going to be fit, sure, but you're not going to be able to hack gear. And I want everybody in chat to learn how to hack gear because you cannot let just the primitivists or just the right wingers take that from you.
I'm in agreement with that. And you know what? You know it has great fucking macros? Deans. All right, eat Deans.
What the fuck is Dean's? What is Dean's, my friend?
That is a
Sardines. Sardines.
Oh, sardines. Oh, that's pretty gross. I'm glad no one's kissing you after this. Ugh. I can smell it from here. I hate beans and I hate anchovies. Chad, can I get
do you have a fish based
a
jar
weird champ
nearby,
for Ovid for eating
Manny?
I
sardines?
don't know. It seems like I've got some Dean stands in the chat.
Manny just lost
Do you
my
have a
vote. I
fish
didn't
paste
want your
jar?
vote.
Manny, get the fish paste jar.
I don't eat red roe. I don't eat fish paste, bro. That shit's disgusting.
Surely someone in that does. You just go get the jar.
Fish oil is very good for you, by the
Oh
way.
no, it's
Yeah, I take
paste.
salmon.
All right. So, um, we're it's 3 o'clock for me and whatever o'clock for wherever the fuck you are.
11.
Yeah. Well, not just you, but everybody else is all over the fucking
I
world.
have a note here in my notes that I just want to read out here. It says Ovid is gay and just wants no strings attached, male for male, low key anal sex encounters with buff perverts. That's a. Can we get that on Craigslist, chat? Can somebody go on Craigslist and just what's your address again?
That's against the rules.
I
This is
don't know
against the
what
rules.
why that was in my notes, chat.
The rules, the debate, the sanctity of it all has
Yeah,
gone
the
out of
expired salmon bowl.
All right, you can throw up the thing, and then we can do Q&A. All right, throw up the poll. We can do Q&A. But Manny, GG. This was fun. I had fun.
I'm glad you had fun. I'm glad you read some stuff. I didn't
Is
really
this
read much, but I did push
did
up.
I have that correct? Were you doing one of these?
No,
I
I
didn't
was
see
just
that.
checking. I was.
Okay,
Chat,
okay,
don't
okay.
clip that. Please don't ruin my career, chat. I just did this. I would never imply that I am anywhere near authoritarian. I believe that every person should be able to do whatever the fuck they want.
Hell yeah,
And
brother.
that,
Hell
that's
yeah.
that's it. That's me, chat. That's what we call
Fundamentally,
chat.
fundamentally, we both want maximum human freedom. I think that's
And also vote for
we are in
President Trump in the
we are
local
in Trump.
election. You see, we've got he's a frog here. This is from 2016. A homie made this for me, but it's he's doing the CIA stance, which is this stance. It's from the Bane video. I've never watched Dark Knight Rises, whatever it's called. But I like this frog, and you should vote for this man because he kind of reminds me of the frog. I don't know about his policies. I know that he'll accelerate the collapse. I know that he'll start a war with China, and we should start a war with China because they're buying up Africa. They're
China.
buying up Africa and Canada.
China.
What's the
Um,
questions, chat?
I want to just sidebar here. TRJV just said presidential debate no winners, dual debate two winners, and hell yeah.
Well, neither of us have dementia, so we both walk from this
Yeah,
with
it's
our
pretty
minds
easy to
intact.
win.
Neither
Also,
of us rape kids, at least I think so, and neither of us shit ourselves on the regular, at least I think so. Um, did we get more questions? For Manny, I'll give you the first question. There is another question of these. Okay, well, he said me and not you. So, Worm, as we abstract away, will people still work out? Yes, they will, because it's fun and it's escapism at the very least. There's soy boys who lift. Like, I don't know, leaning into this mic. I can bring it up here. Worm, you should still work out regardless. Look, people will need to be able to move. I don't think we're going to get to that Wall-E thing. I think the Wall-E, we're all plugged into machines thing is a bit of a mislead. We'll be enslaved, but it'll be vice Flugel spooks. And then Ovid, Fat Daddy Stack says, yeah, I get we cannot return to a more naturalized society without extreme and damaging change, but isn't it good to work against the engine of future accelerationism? That's basically your points you've already made.
yeah, I mean, yes, I think it is good to work against it. I think that if nothing else, you will have exercised the same muscles, both physical muscles and mental muscles and emotional muscles, by resisting in your own personal day-to-day life that you will need in order to survive any kind of post-collapse, regardless. And even if it's a waste of time, it's not a waste of time because even if everything works out great, you will still be a more competent person. You will be a more physically fit person. You will be a more independent person. All of those skills are still useful. So there's literally no downside to preparing for and working against the systems because you will just end up being a better person for it, even if nothing sociological comes of that. And if enough people do that, then something sociological will come of that just by virtue of people behaving in that way. And so that's not really a return to tradition because I don't even really know what tradition is exactly. That's just being the best person you can be, I would say.
Haggle says he's watching the stream looking waste. To that, I say it's dedicated to you. Everything we do is dedicated to kings like you. So, I'm on Team Money. There we go. I'm late. What's happening? We'll arrive earlier next time. For both of us, if history does repeat itself, do you believe a regression is inevitable? I'll let you take that first.
History has to repeat itself as a regression in that way. Where the fuck is where's the question? Okay, there we go.
It's in
Yeah,
Julie.
Prawn asked, if history does repeat itself, do I believe that a regression is inevitable? I don't think that history repeats itself. So, uh, Yeah, as Flugel said, history rhymes, not repeats. I don't think that history has ever repeated itself exactly. There are patterns in the past, but I don't think that this pattern has happened before. I think that if anything, if history has repeated itself in the past, that has been like an orbit, right? I think that what we are on right now is a fucking escape trajectory. Um, I don't think that this is a repeatable thing. So, yeah. What about you? I think history is going to repeat
To that
itself.
I say, history does repeat itself in sort of phase changes and repetition. I mean, we're still doing communism right versus fascism, right? The core concepts have not been fleshed out enough for us to truly understand. Like, okay, we know communism is bad, but we haven't applied, for instance, UBI and whatnot. So we haven't seen enough iterations for us to truly believe what to do next. Is the traditionalist idea that we know what the past looks like, so we should go that way because we know what happens if we just have the Wild West. We don't know what happens if we have a post-singularity society. Do you believe a regression is inevitable? I believe that regressive elements are inevitable because they already exist, and I'm already in some of their Discord servers, but as to whether or not they're actually going to be successful, zero chance in hell. If anything, we've seen that the system is adaptable. It is capable of subverting even the most hardcore elements that would destroy it, and it's co-opting movements like you wouldn't believe. So no, I don't think that an actual regression in technological level is capable of happening without some sort of solar flare. Solar flare. It'll happen if that happens. Otherwise, or nuclear exchange. We need one of those two things to happen. Or like total war, so total that most of the world's infrastructure is destroyed by bombing runs. That's the regression that could happen, and I don't think that's going to happen. There's too much. No party wants that. Mutually assured destruction would have happened by now because a lot stupider people have been in a lot more powerful positions. The password for the UK nuclear silos was like 1111. Like that was the password. You
Same
could have
here.
gone up to the console and just typed in 1111 and turned a key and then typed in, Turkey, Istanbul, and then just nuked it. So yeah, if it was going to happen, it would have happened by now. Do we have another? Do we have another? Do we have another question there, Tampu? Ovid, from Flugel, do ideas and ideology rarely progress?
I don't really know what that means. Uh,
Well, do they
Political
evolve?
do they evolve? Sure. I mean, I think that if the question is there such a thing as a new idea? Like, has everything been done before? Then no, I don't think that everything has been thought of yet. There are new ideas that come out all the time. And rehashing of old ideas frequently gives rise to fundamentally new things. I mean, it is entirely possible, for instance, uh, that communism could work with proper tweaks. Maybe real communism really hasn't been tried yet. It is entirely possible that there is some perfect, game theory way of structuring society and government that we just haven't thought of yet. So sure, those things progress, and if nothing else, I think that's obvious too. I mean, like, shit, man. I mean, a democracy and republic as they exist today are so fundamentally different than back during when the Greeks did it, right? And that in turn was pretty new. As far as I know, that was the first time that anyone had actually tried such a thing. So, of course, of course.
Starfrog asks if I have done DMT. I have not done DMT proper. I have done full ACO DMT multiple times. If you go to my YouTube channel, I have a mountain post where I took a little bit of full ACO DMT and then walked up a mountain. And I didn't get all the way up there because there was a cool cave and then there was birds. Go to my YouTube channel. Got any more questions?
I did shrooms
I
once, and
got
it was
something.
one of the most impactful of experiences in my life. If you are a well-adjusted person who can handle being really, really alone with yourself in your own body, who's comfortable with your own brain, take shrooms. Yeah, if you think
Yes.
that if you kind of hate yourself, if you're kind of like borderline in that way, don't do psychedelics because you
It
might
might
never
fix you.
recover. It might fix you. You might kill yourself. Make sure that there's no
But then
gun.
either way, no problems. I want to bring up another point that nobody's asked about, and that is the wiping the slate clean, memory ghosting side of the progressive arguments. Um, One thing that I think Uncle Ted couldn't have predicted is just how prolific, because he talks about destroying technical documents in industrial society. He talks about destroying technical documents and infrastructure, but we have a different landscape now. And one question I want to propose here is how many flash drives are in your local landfill? Microsoft also sunk a data center on the ocean floor that recently dredged it up, actually, in between me writing that now. What the fuck do you do about that? First of all, why are these tech companies dropping data centers to the bottom of the ocean and putting them in the Arctic and on barges? Google has barges. Why are they, like they're
Cooling,
doing that obviously
cooling,
for safeguarding.
cooling,
So
and also because it's quite difficult
yeah,
to.
cooling.
It's
It's
also
cooling,
quite.
but how do you pipe bomb that?
Well, maybe you don't have to. I mean, maybe information isn't so much a problem as long as it's well. First of all, if it's there's always a way. There's always a way, right? Don't throw away your tools and your weapons just because it's technology and technology bad. In fact, you should be acquiring as much technology as possible for yourself. And by that I
But
mean
then you're just a faction. You're not a regressivist. You're just a faction in the fight during the singularity. You're not returning to tradition. You're just picking up your enemy's tools and fighting them. You're turning it in. You're just a Axis versus allies like faction. Um, a point I also want to make there is it doesn't take. It takes like decades or millennia even to invent something. But to reinvent something when there's already technical documents, which Kaczynski mentions, or even just the idea of the thing, if you know something's possible, you're a lot more likely to try and attempt it, right? If human flight was discovered by the White brothers, but then they lost the plans, we would have still cracked it within a generation. All it takes to reinvent something is an enthusiast. Um, so even if we start chopping out the data centers, we just target the worst of the worst, right? The stock market machines, the data centers, the skyscrapers, the worst of it. It would take not even a generation for that stuff to crop up again, even with restrictions, even with an ideology that makes it verboten. Because people, there are autists in the world who like that kind of stuff and they'll make it and they'll, as part of their personal liberty, we'll forget that those things were terrible or what we were trying to avert, and then we'll just reinvent it. It'll half the reason why the anarcho-primitivist position is untenable is there's no point you can regress to. If you regress too little, you reinvent everything in a generation. The ecosphere doesn't recover, and we're all dead anyway. And if you regress too much, you would still within a generation rediscover everything. There's enough fantasy novels about people running around, Horizon Zero Dawn, I think, is people running around and there's robots and dinosaurs and broken cities and stuff. Give that society a decade, and they'll get everything working again.
I think the
Hands
human
down. There's
I
no.
think that I think the human um, culture is the only real solution because I think that if things collapse, they'll regrow probably, and so the only real way to solve the problem is to roll that the beliefs of nature being vital and that of individual responsibility and of self-sufficiency within a community and within a person. If those aren't cultural values that are instilled and revered uh, by people, then there is no way for it to stick. I think that you're correct about that. I also don't think that there is a way for things to collapse in which people are unable to recover that technology that doesn't also involve everybody dying, basically, right? So regardless of whether we get to that point of the ecosystem starting to recover and people living more self-sufficient and in tune with nature kinds of lifestyles by means of uh, accelerationism and collapse, or by means of active resistance from within, regardless of how we get there, the only way to maintain that is with a cultural attitude, with traditions that new traditions, right? Not old traditions. The old traditions were obviously, first of all, right. Here's something that I don't like about traditionalists. There's that scene in No Country for Old Men when Anton Chigurh asks the other guy if the rule that got you to this point, if the rule that you followed got you to this point, of what use was the rule? If the
Yeah,
traditions
that's a good
that we
one.
had, if the traditions that we had 150, 200, 300 years ago got us to this point, of what use were those traditions?
Yeah,
So
that's an
maybe,
extremely good point.
people who are like hardcore Christians will talk about. I mean, like the most hardcore Christian that I know of, and I'm not going to name names, but he once in a server said that the downfall of Western society began with the Declaration of Independence. That all men
I
being
know who you're
equal,
talking about.
that the all men being equal part
No
was the
more
beginning of
other
the end.
quotes.
But
You're not allowed to use any other quotes from this person.
his belief that that's true, and also his simultaneous belief in old school Christianity, Catholicism, right? Those Catholicism led to this. It did. I mean, Christianity is like the sympathetic to the poor, sympathetic to individual. I mean, it's the softest of the Abrahamic religions in terms of
True.
that is what led to ultimately um, where we are now. It is not an accident that the most extreme puritanical Christians who came to this country decided to set up a society where all people are treated as equal, because the you know for thousands and thousands of years societies were organized around individual monarchs whose right to rule was derived from their position of religious authority. The leader of the
Yeah,
religion
but
and the
most
ruler of the
primitivists
state
and most
is the same
traditionalists
person.
are pagans. Most of them are pagans, though. Like the pagan position
Not
was
here.
we got wiped out. Our druids got knocked to trees, like nailed to their own trees. They got
Not,
crucified. So they didn't.
that might be
It,
true elsewhere. That's definitely not true in the U.S. In the U.S., it's like Mormons and shit, and it's like, how can you be a Mormon and
we
think that
can't
returning
invoke
tradition?
Americans in intellectual debate. We just can't.
Okay,
Chat has a question.
Well, I think you can
fine.
acknowledge that there's different histories for different places. America is definitely like a younger country as far as things are concerned.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Nobody
from
asked
the
you,
real
Oscar.
world.
Thank you.
Conception.
Fat Daddy Stacks asks, what are both of your thoughts regarding the rise of modern hedonism? Is this a byproduct of accelerationism or something entirely different? I'm going to take this one because I know the Uncle Ted position very strongly here, but I also have been researching. I've been like reading Snow Crash and books on genetics and stuff. Hedonism and escapism has always been in the human DNA, and this is what Uncle Ted talks about in terms of substitution activities. We're doing these activities because we cannot engage in a community, in the political sphere. We have no. You can't not be a hedonist. Every single person in chat, every single one of you are a hedonist to a degree because you know you don't. Even if you have a community, you interact with them one day a week. Even even if you have a very ascetic lifestyle, I am stone cold sober. I don't engage in 90%. I don't watch anime. I don't watch TV. I've not. The last movie I watched was Drive, and then like 3 months ago it was No Country with You. Um, but even if you're not a hedonist and you're not mindlessly chasing pleasure, Parks is a great example in the server. Chat, can we get some love for Parks? Um, Even if you're an ascetic soul, you cannot do that for very long without feeling like you're not participating in the world around you. And for some people, that's fine. But for most of us, we want to have a community that we can engage in, and we don't have that. We don't even the Christians are struggling. And a lot of the Christian churches are using a lot of weird technology and doing social justice shit. They're basically leftist organizations. Um, Chaz, I just noticed Helgi just said "fuck you, Pox." That's not cool, Helgi. That's not cool. Can we get a mass block wave on Helgi? Um, no, he said lovingly. I didn't see love there, homie. You got to calm down on the edginess. I'm going to be very nice to Mr. Ovid after this. I was trash talking him for a month. He
Yeah, we
got
had to hype
like a
it up.
man
We had
like
to
I
hype
told
it up.
him. Um,
I love
you didn't
Manny, and
really
Manny loves me. It was all trash talk.
you didn't come. I got to say your trash talk was like just standing there taking it like a bit. I hope you don't choke on the zippy water. Um, do we have any more questions, chat? For both. Okay, we did the hedonism once. Final question for both from local Stowell. Tell me a funny joke.
No.
Yeah, I'm also gonna say no. Fuck you. Go get your entertainment elsewhere. Zish asks, how was your day, Manny and Ovid both? I'm going to say my day was very good. I prepared for the debates, I went shopping, I bought some extension leads that didn't work because they were made in China. Vote for Trump to get rid of China. And I just had a good day overall. I didn't do push ups in the morning because I've been doing them for weeks. I might have pulled muscles or tendons or something. Um,
So, but before Ovid tells us how he is, I got a joke for both of you. How do you make a sausage roll?
is that for me?
Yeah, either. How do you make a sausage roll? It's a joke.
By
Oh, how do you make a
putting it on a
sausage roll?
hill,
Oh, god damn it, Ovid. That was close. You're close. You push it.
you push it.
That's it. That's the jerk. Because neither of you had a jerk, so I just thought I'd get in there. Tell us how your day was, Ovid.
Uh, pretty good. Did this. Did work. Gonna go paragliding and
Oh shit, you're paragliding today. That's a good way to cap the day.
just ground handling practice. But yeah, um,
Nice.
I have yet to actually go on like a real, honest to god, like multi-minute long flight. But soon, very soon.
You want to hear a
Uh,
joke, chat? I haven't thought of a joke, chat. You want to hear a joke? Here's the joke. This debate was more concerned about the future of the country than your American presidential debate because there people were watching and figuring which kitty fiddler slash dementia-ridden patient they were going to vote for the next 4 years, and we're wondering are they going to last though? Are they going to survive? So that's where liberal democracy got us. So there's the joke, liberal democracy. It's saying how much better this was, and yes, Temple, I agree. I agree, and that's the point I just make. Let's get some Omega Lol reacts chat. You should say bye. Say bye what? Do you mean bye BYE? Night? Are we drinking again during the day? Just say goodbye. Just say goodbye.
good.
Okay, well, I feel like I've made my points. I feel like you
Yeah.
made your
No.
points. We'll see what
I feel
the.
like
I think Knight says
I
it's
feel like we're in
closing time.
agreement on much here. And you
Yes.
know what? Regardless of what happens, it
Kill
was
the Bank of America CEO. That's the
regardless.
final message, chat. Chat,
I,
can we
I'm
get the address of
I'm
the
glad
current
that
Bank of America building?
I'm glad that we found
And
this
we
place.
can.
That's my closing remark. Is that
I
if nothing else, this can be a place of having a little bit of light in the darkness. So
Yeah, and we're going to need that going forward. There's going to be no water for 2/3 of you niggas in 2025, including me because I'm an African. It's already dry.
I heard that joke.
Um,
I hope it was clipped from there.
Maintain your push-up PR. Your push-ups were a little fast. I didn't want to give you shit for it during the thing. I don't want to lead people. Your push-ups were too fast. Convict conditioning says 2 seconds down, 1 second hold, 2 seconds up. I did mine faster because I knew I wasn't going to do that many. Um, but your push-ups were too fast. You got to slow them down. Everybody in chat, I want you reporting in on fitness. We're going to start drilling you guys into the fitness channel.
yes, yeah,
Howie
everybody.
says, I said the N word. I could say the N word right now and nobody could do anything, but I'm not going to because I'm not a bad person, unlike you, you Russian piece of shit. Randy takes drugs, his physical inhibition is non existent. I have not taken a drug for 637 days, fam. Can you say the same? Can you say the same? Kit Kat is confused. Welcome to the club. Local Star Wars says spell ICAP. I will ICAP. I will leave that to you, Ovid. Manning over and out. Have yourselves a good day, chat.
Spell what? Spell iCup?
Bye,
iCup.
Manny. Thank
I
you.
see it.
Thank you for your
Alright.
participation.
I am
And
also
thank
out.
you, Ovid. And
GG.
thanks everybody for listening and taking part in chat and everything like that. It's awesome
Thanks.
to see everyone.
Thanks for being our emergency double backup moderator there, Aussie.
I do my best. So, you guys have a good day.
You too.